Salutations, my friends. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noiser, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and I've titled this episode Ascension, Censorship, and the Turning of the Age, because, well, with everything we're seeing, I think it's become heavily apparent that these people are trying to stifle our progress. Between talking about things like the AI reality, how they're doing environmental engineering, things like the consciousness, the collective consciousness, and how they're trying to manufacture opinion. I'll discuss all that and more in this edition. But first, I hope you guys are checking out the website, factionsoffreedom.gemdo.com. We're putting out all kinds of different stuff on there, from the articles, to the videos, to the documents, to the downloadables, to the mini-casts, to the newsletter that we're starting to introduce as well. Because what? They can stop me, but they can't stop me from getting it to you directly. So that's something new that we're going to work with. And if you want to just support us because you really do see what I'm trying to do with all the attention and with all the information, think about becoming a Patreon exclusive member. Your guys' support really does get us to where we're trying to go. And it's really not a sell. It's really not a pitch. Like, I really am trying to make a legit operation, and I'll do it with or without your help. But like I said, let's get started because we have a whole lot to be going over. So I'll put all the links in the description bar below so you guys can check that out. But with that being said, let's jump right into it. As I said before, this episode is called Ascension, Censorship, and the Turning of the Age. And I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Before I get into all of this stuff, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I feel like it's imperative that we really understand that what we are all witnessing right now towards the end of 2017, towards the year Anna Lucius, the year of light, after 300 years of Freemasonry, that we are going through what is considered a natural ascension process. And what we find ourselves in is this enslavement system. And this has been talked about, by the Mayans. This has been predicted. It's even seen in the Kali Yuga. These ancient texts, even in the Bible. We are going through tribulations. We are going through a certain time frame, and it's what comes after. Some people consider it the golden age. I'm not necessarily sure what to call it myself, because I see it as a hodgepodge of all of them, a mixture of all of them together. What we're going through is what I would consider the turning of the age. All this stuff, from politics being, ridiculous, to religion, basically being a lie, to them trying to cover up history and manipulate everything that we see constantly. I think it's apparent that, we are living in not only interesting days, but like that, the turning of the age. We are meant to go through so much. We are meant to grow. We are meant to have conversations. We are meant to actually discuss much more than just politics. It's not about Trump. It's not about China. It's not about North Korea. It's not about ISIS. It's not about Syria. It's not about the Zionists. It's not about those Jews. It's not about all that stuff. It's about what we're supposed to experience as humans on this time frame. And why don't you think they want us to have these kind of conversations? You got to ask yourself that. Why is it at this time frame, when we have all these tools at our disposals, we basically have a mobile studio in our pocket, that they don't want us to talk? No, they want us to hang around on their social media playpens. They're slowly and ever increasingly heavily censored playpens. You see, and this is something that I've talked about a lot. I'll say this real quick, and then we'll get into the show. This is something I've talked about a lot because this ties into the show. The fact that they're literally trying to put like a capstone on consciousness, that they're trying to control the ascension process. We'll be talking about this whole woke phenomenon, where everybody feels like they're so woke, and I really don't understand why we should, go by these labels. I think the whole idea is to be abstract, so that you can always be in a constant state of learning, be as if you were a child, but, constantly curious about everything around you But have your mind so open that it doesn't fall out. You know, don't have your mind in the clouds to where you're no earthly good. We have to really understand what is happening, as well as them like trying to overfeed us with information control and useless stuff as well. We really have to look at what's happening. So I say all that to say this: whenever we have very few people who are able to siphon through all this and navigate it, they don't want these kinds of people to communicate and at the same time inspire others. And this is why I'm so grateful to be in the position that I am and to be able to talk to you guys and to have the kind of effect that I am. But you've seen what's happened with that, with the censorship and everything else that comes with that. So let's jump right into the show. So as I said before, this episode is titled Ascension, Censorship, and the Turning of the Age. If you guys saw this the other day, and this is again more quick updates because I got to get you guys up to date on what's going on for the people that don't pay attention to the page. They pay more attention to the audio version, and I really do appreciate that. The numbers are crazy. But basically what this is a quick update for you guys to let you know about what's going to be happening over the couple of days. With censorship going on, net neutrality, the deleting content, everything I said before. I'm going to be slowly pulling off of social media and migrating onto the website. That doesn't mean I'll be quitting social media entirely. That just means we'll be switching up how we operate, and we'll see how that goes. That's all I can really say. Pay attention because we're always changing. We can't shrink in the face of all these problems, and that's the key thing that we have to look at in this episode. Even though we are being faced with what seems like insurmountable odds, we are clearly able to do something about it, but it's how we react instead of succumbing to the pressure. All right? Pressure makes diamonds, and what we're going through is just that. It's meant to refine us. Now these people, that's why they feel justified, to be honest. That's why these sick, sycophantic, satanic, let's get real, pedophile freaks, all right? That's why they do these types of things, because they feel entitled. And we'll be getting that as well. The pedophile expulsion, Rome falling, how they're trying to indoctrinate children. And I got this weird kind of theory about House of Cards and Kevin Spacey and how they're trying to script reality. Because again, all these things tie into what we consider the collective consciousness, what we're understanding. This is social engineering. This is where we're actually getting in your mind to talk about how you perceive reality. What is really happening? Why do you feel so disassociated? You see, why are they trying to put all this stuff up against us? It's because they're trying to overwhelm us, not only emotionally, but mentally, financially, and that's what you see happening. Something else that we've talked about is the socio-economic reformation. That's a whole nother discussion. But what we see happening now is, I guess, a socio-philosophical reformation where people are changing. This is why communism and fascism and all this other stuff is coming up there. But again, these are being introduced simply by these as people say, these globalists, the New World Order, the United Nations, the people behind the deep state. You see, like, check this out. This is a perfect example of basically what I mean. The other day, we put up an article about how, and this is from, I think, SHFT Plan. They're talking about how the Democrats want to ban gas and diesel cars by 2040 to make California more like China. I said it's not just the Democrats. Let's be real, okay? Well, it might be Democrats that have voted for this bill to go through. It's not necessarily just a Democrat. It could be the international powers, the lobbyists, Zionists, the people, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, whoever, George Soros, whoever has the money to grease the palms to get this bill where it needs to go. But again, to abide by the Agenda 2030, Agenda 21 operation. You see, there are larger things at play here. So while we see this kind of tug for society, we also see the environment being introduced into the consciousness as well. And you can go back to some of the episodes where we've broken this down. I think where I started to see this trend is back to the episode Marriage of the Beast, and that's whenever I actually started seeing what they were trying to do. where we have things like Saudi Arabia, where we have places like France, where we have all kinds of different places getting involved in sustainable energies or sustainable development technologies, green energies. There are a lot of different things involved in this, but what we have to really say is it's not just the Democrats. Come on. And my prayers go out to the people that are in California right now. Like, really? You guys are going through so I don't think this is natural. You know, a lot of the things you guys are going through, this is not natural. This is very unnatural. You have my prayers. And I don't understand how some people can't put the pieces together. I feel like a lot of what's happening, again, and this is more of that Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, deforestation, relocation, and destruction of the outside world. There's so many different facets to look at this, but this isn't normal. You know, some of the people are even saying the spread pattern between the Ventura County fire, between the Thomas fire, is not right. Over 82 square miles, 65,000 acres of land. That's crazy. That is crazy. And it's not stopping. And at the same time, we have Trump over here recognizing Jerusalem.
Public schools are closed in Ventura County, and Governor Brown has issued a state of emergency. This is a wind-driven fire. It's been very erratic. It's been hopscotching, jumping from area to area. Unfortunately, fire crews have not been able to attack this fire by air due to the weather conditions, the high winds. It's just been impossible for helicopters to fly up ahead. They're hoping to get a break in the wind this morning and be able to fly by daybreak. Now, this is near Solomar Beach, so homes closer to the beach are being evacuated. You're seeing a lot of law enforcement patrolling the areas. There's been a curfew set here in Ventura County from last night until this morning at 5 a.m. That has expired now, so we'll see a lot of families returning to their homes. We saw so many homes yesterday destroyed. The initial count was 150 homes destroyed, but that was yesterday at this time. Once daybreak hits and those choppers are able to get into the sky, public schools are closed in Ventura County, and Governor Brown has issued a state of emergency. This is a wind-driven fire. It's been very erratic. It's been hopscotching, jumping from area to area. Unfortunately, fire crews have not been able to attack this fire by air due to the weather conditions, the high winds. It's just been impossible for helicopters to fly up ahead. They're hoping to get a break in the wind this morning and be able to fly by daybreak. Now, this is near Solomar Beach, so homes closer to the beach are being evacuated. You're seeing a lot of law enforcement patrolling the areas. There's been a curfew set here in Ventura County from last night until this morning at 5 a.m. That has expired now, so we'll see a lot of families returning to their homes. We saw so many homes yesterday destroyed. The initial count was 150 homes destroyed, but that was yesterday at this time. Once daybreak hits and those choppers are able to get into the sky.
Barbuda.
Public schools are closed in Ventura County, and Governor Brown has issued a state of emergency. This is a wind-driven fire. It's been very erratic. It's been hopscotching, jumping from area to area. Unfortunately, fire crews have not been able to attack this fire by air due to the weather conditions, the high winds. It's just been impossible for helicopters to fly up ahead. They're hoping to get a break in the wind this morning and be able to fly by daybreak. Now, this is near Solomar Beach, so homes closer to the beach are being evacuated. You're seeing a lot of law enforcement patrolling the areas. There's been a curfew set here in Ventura County from last night until this morning at 5 a.m. That has expired now, so we'll see a lot of families returning to their homes. We saw so many homes yesterday destroyed. The initial count was 150 homes destroyed, but that was yesterday at this time. Once daybreak hits and those choppers are able to get into the sky. Public schools are closed in Ventura County, and Governor Brown has issued a state of emergency. This is a wind-driven fire. It's been very erratic. It's been hopscotching, jumping from area to area. Unfortunately, fire crews have not been able to attack this fire by air due to the weather conditions, the high winds. It's just been impossible for helicopters to fly up ahead. They're hoping to get a break in the wind this morning and be able to fly by daybreak. Now, this is near Solomar Beach, so homes closer to the beach are being evacuated. You're seeing a lot of law enforcement patrolling the areas. There's been a curfew set here in Ventura County from last night until this morning at 5 a.m. that has expired now, so we'll see a lot of families returning to their homes. We saw so many homes yesterday destroyed. The initial count was 150 homes destroyed, but that was yesterday at this time. Once daybreak hits and those choppers are able to get into the
that's why they say, you know, the climate is so intense, it's so raw, you could bite right through it. Look at what's going on. Look at what we're being surrounded with. Over 150 structures, including at least one large apartment complex, were consumed by the flames, and many more were threatened as the fire crept about a quarter-mile away from City Hall. This is back on Tuesday. Just look at that. And you know what Governor Jerry Brown can come through and say? Climate change, climate change, climate change. Like I said, you know, the people in California, my friends, you guys really have my prayers right now. You are going through an unholy hell, an unnatural wave of chaos. I don't understand. That is, it's crazy. But, you know, I definitely kind of got sidetracked and went off on a crazy tangent. You know, this fire is captivating me. All these environmental things that are happening. This is weather modification. This is post-weather modification. You know, this is another thing that we talk about all the time with our building the matrix concept. The fact that they will destroy the exterior world, destroy what we see around us, what we see taking place around us, the environment, everything. And they will find a way to push us into a larger matrix. And this all pays attention to the collective consciousness, our collective conscience. You know, what we all think of as a problem, why we all see this global culture, this global citizen idea being manufactured. You know, again, how we're all dealing with various forms of censorship and self-censorship, political correctness. Oh, you know, what is the standard human today? We're seeing a lot of these different things happen, because this is what social media has brought to the world. And as Sean Parker has said, this has been a drug that the entire world has pulled itself into, that we find ourselves combating. And while it's funny to think about these types of things, you know, whether or not we are afflicted and addicted to social media, to the flip, to the scroll, however you want to put it, we are now a part of what we would consider this hive mentality. And I think a lot of people saw this coming beforehand. This is why you got to tell people these days, don't get triggered. They're trying to trigger you. This is part of a long-term program to slowly introduce us to different types of technologies, different types of thinkings. As I said before at the start of the show, the social engineering, all of the different things that they are trying to do to control you. So when I come back, I'm going to try to start this fresh, because the Ventura fire really did captivate me. And you guys in California, you really have my prayers. This is some very serious stuff. But when you come back, we're going to talk about that, you know, the social media and the hive mentality, how we're dealing with censorship and why that's important, you see. Because we are going through an ascension process. What we see happening is us rising. But these people, they're going to continue these types of things. They're going to continue to destroy us. They're going to try to figure out ways to legally and lawfully kill us. They're going to experiment on us. They're going to try so many different things because they don't want us to have the information of everything that they're doing. They don't want us to have the blueprint of their chaos. You see, yet they have the gall to write it on things like the Georgia Guidestones. They have the gall to make things like Agenda 21 that you guys can all go back and go look at. whenever they literally reduce life to an experiment, it doesn't have meaning anymore. Nothing has meaning. But I tell you, everything has meaning because these people there are trying to tweak it. But this is all part of what we see happening. If the world is indeed changing, if the world is ending, what will we build upon the ashes, or will we sit there and fall with it? We've really got to ask ourselves this. But at the same time, what we see forming is that people who don't care, people who want to rise to the occasion, and then people who are actually being the adversarial force, the adversarial agent, the pressure needed to refine us. But we're going to take a quick break, and whenever we come back, we're going to be talking about that and more. This is Ascension, Censorship, and the Turning of the Age on Factions of Freedom. Stay tuned. And we are back. Thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, like I said, you know, the intro was definitely kind of weird. I understand that, but you look at all this stuff, and you really got to try to put it together. This pedogate stuff, and I'll get to that as well. I feel like it's at this point becoming a distraction. You know, you didn't know that Hollywood had all kinds of pedophiles. You didn't know that the casting couch was a sexual term. That's what these people do. Okay, so we'll get into that shortly. But we need to look at what I consider, you know, the collective conscious, and how this plays into the part with the AI reality. You see, while we see all of this stuff being put out there to us for our consumption, yes, it is beautiful, but as you hear me say all the time, a lot of these spiritual practices are not compatible with what's going on. A lot of these spiritual ideologies, they can't really be practiced or embodied here in the Western world. A perfect example of this, you know, they call New York the concrete jungle, right? Could you imagine doing ayahuasca in prison? That's right. Prisoners in Brazil are being allowed to do ayahuasca. As crazy as it sounds, it's very real. Let me get into this, and then I'll kind of explain like the collective conscience. I put this up December 4th. It's from Waking Times. It's by Heather Callaghan. She's a guest writer, and it says Brazil is offering its prisoners ayahuasca for rehabilitation. It said, how would society change if, instead of suffering, punishment, and recidivism, we embraced love, healing, and restoration? Some Brazilian prisoners are getting the opportunity to embark on their own ayahuasca journey and turn their lives around. The powerful herbal combination that produces DMT and hallucinogenic experience is said to be cutting recidivism rates in the prison. The ayahuasca tea made from the ayahuasca vine, Batistori opiuscapi, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, and the Triavirides plant, both from the Amazon, the spiritual ritual is said to be an ancient practice among indigenous peoples. It has now gained international attention for what people say after their experiences. People have reported relief from depression, PTSD, trauma, and even physical conditions. From alternet.org, services offered to selected Brazilian prisoners included guided healing practices like yoga, Reiki, meditation, and in some locations, rehabilitation of violent criminals, and reduced rates of recidivism after prisoners are released. Brazilian prisoners started to offer ayahuasca through the prisoners' rights advocacy group Acuda, based in Porto Velho. As Aaron Case notes in the 2015 article, quote, the ayahuasca program serves as a dual purpose. The prison populations in Brazil have doubled since 2000, and conditions are grossly overcrowded. So the retreats are kind of a pilot to introduce or to try to reduce recidivism rates. For now, it is just a few inmates participating, but it's too early to tell whether the treatments will help keep them from re-entering in the criminal justice system. But it's at least a starting point. So basically what they're trying to say is they're trying to give people a spiritual experience to heal themselves, a therapeutic healing experience in jail. Now, I would not want to do ayahuasca or any kind of psychedelic or any kind of, you know, transcendental type of thing like this in prison, because that would really, really, that would, you know, it would reveal all of your faults. But that's the idea, you know, is to rehab, to rehabilitate yourself, to show yourself, to reveal yourself to yourself and say, you know what? I messed up. I can do better. But in this world of constant and instant gratification where we don't slow down, these prisoners, they don't have phones right there, or if they do, you know, they're at least restricted. Here in a growing world where everything is 24/7, how can we ever know what peace is? In a world where social media dominates everything, to where we can't really take a break, to where people get worried if you take 2 seconds to yourself. That's the hive mentality. That's whenever we're addicted. That's whenever we don't really know how to think for ourselves. That's whenever we have a dependency, and they foster and nurture this dependency. You see, to where we don't really feel as if we're ourselves unless we're part of this social media feedback validation loop, as Sean Parker puts it. Sean Parker of Facebook. And I'll get into the collective consciousness because this is important. Understanding why we were talking about the collective consciousness in the technotronic age is important, because they can see, as I said before at the start of the show, they can see us going through this stage, this evolutionary phase, this spiritual evolutionary phase where we understand more, where we want to be more, where we expand. But as I said before, and I asked you all, what happens if we're all woke? What happens if we are all aware of what's going on? Is it upon us to actually start making these changes? Do we have to be the agents of change? The answer is yes. Or do we sit there and play again into a system which still seeks to further enslave us? But they want to try to work their way around that. They want to try to work their way into our life, into our systems, to where they can monitor everything. You know, they have systems where they can basically monitor you whenever you're meditating, because when you hit a meditative state, you actually have you have an aura come around you. Your energy changes, your brainwave changes, you give off different signals, different vibes. That's the best way to put it. And they have the technology that is able to see that. But they've been studying this. This is, again, another thing that we've touched on the show, with things like Project Stargate, Project Cinderlane, Project Grill Flame, where these people are literally looking at psychokinetic energies, how we're able to use our mind, not only for astral projection, but surveillance. That was their idea. Surveillance and reconnaissance. But I can assure you they found ways to weaponize this, to weaponize the spirit, to weaponize our extrasensory capabilities, our extrasensory perception. Because these technocrats, these social engineers, they're practicing some higher level sciences. They're literally having to come up with brand new forms of sciences to understand what is happening to us. That's why they want to come up with that's why they want to let loose with the AI, if you want to be honest. That's why they want to let that thing go, so they can understand what is happening to humanity, to where they don't have to say, oh, well, we can't control it. We can't understand, why the AI is creating its own language. We can't understand, why it's becoming its own supercomputer. We can't understand why it's breaking off and having a sentience of its own. Nope. We can't understand why all these biobugs are being introduced into society. We can't understand why all these different rifts are taking place. Because yes, humanity is waking up at an extraordinary rate. And I'm very grateful for it. It's what we're doing with our wake-ups, with our ascension process, that's important. Because if we're going to be in this system, we really have to try to fight it. They want uniformity. They want conformity. They don't want people to actually think. They don't want people to be themselves. You see, they want to put them in a false state of security. A perfect example of this, and you guys might have saw this with again Facebook becoming more and more authoritarian, as much an invasive authoritarian, in your mind type of authoritarian, to where they can detect you. And this is beyond me. This is beyond me. And this is, again, something that we've talked about, how these people will try to censor you. They will detect your patterns. That's what they want. That's how this technology acts. That's how AI works. It senses your patterns. It senses what you do, where you shop, what types of things you say, where you spend your time. And I'm sure they have me clocked. I'm sure. And that's okay. But what they need to understand is we're constantly expanding, and this is what I'm telling you guys. Become a part of the Patreon. Become a part of our newsletter. The revolution will not be televised. I will send it directly into your inbox. They might be able to try to stop me from broadcasting. They might be able to try to stop me from censoring content, deleting content, but they can't stop me from sending it to you directly. And they can't stop you from having it on your own servers. Once you're a Patreon exclusive member, that's whenever you're able to download all the content. I'm working on a way. Right now you can download all 4 seasons, as well as the Building the Matrix series, and so much more. Because I want to be able to give you guys the entire experience, everything that I have, in the event that they do try to put me behind bars, if they do try to shut down the operation. Because that's the intention. They don't want us to actually have dissenting opinions. They don't want us to be ourselves. This is why they want to have information control, where they manufacture opinion, to where they can manufacture consent that this is okay. Sure, yeah, no, make an AI where, you know, it could notice whenever I don't post and consider me suicidal because I'm not on your authoritarian, invasive Big Brother system. Right here, I put this up December 4th. It says Facebook's new suicidal detection AI could put innocent people behind bars. And this is up on our website. It says, imagine police knocking on your door because you posted a troubling comment on a social media website. It says, imagine a judge forcing you to be jailed. Sorry, I meant hospitalized because a computer program found your comments troubling. You can stop imagining this is really happening. So we're talking about what are they called? Not rehabilitation centers, FEMA camps, fusion centers, but they're like it escapes me. It'll come back to me. Thought centers. It's Big Brother. It's 1984 on steroids, where they want to say, you know what? I don't really think that you understand how troubling your comments are. You are damaging to society. You need to stop that. We need to hospitalize you so you understand the damage of your words. This is what happens whenever we live in a world where people are getting destroyed simply off of accusation, where there's no actual validity behind it. It's all hearsay. It's all drama. But again, this is a part of the information control where they can manufacture your idea. That's why they're trying to slowly get us involved with this North Korea situation where they're saying, it'll be okay, we can kill him. Let's do these things. And they're doing it with saying, let's kill Trump too. It's okay, let's do this. You're used to it. It's part of the predictive programming, the conditioning, to where they desensitize you, as I said before, and tell you that it's okay. Let me continue on with this article. It says a recent TechCrunch article warns that Facebook's, quote, proactive detection artificial intelligence will use pattern recognition to contact first responders. Pattern recognition to contact first responders, eh? The AI will contact first responders if they deem a person's comments to have troubling suicidal thoughts. So imagine that, because, you know, there's a lot of situations out there where, you know, somebody could say some dumb stuff and then somebody could say, you know what, I think they're suicidal. Kids already do it today with swatting. You know, whenever you play Xbox Live at PS4 or anything online, you know, you swat somebody's house because they're just being a jerk. But now you have first responders come to your house expecting to find a dead body, and this is going to create so many different problems. You see, and then they'll refine it. They'll figure out a way to put this stuff out there. You'll start making us think a certain way. It's crazy. It is crazy. I'm going to get into this, and then we'll start continuing on with the generational warfare is what I consider it. The indoctrination, because if you look at what they're doing, they're making it seem as if there's no world outside of the world that they're creating with social media, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever will come after. Google, they're trying to, like I keep saying, manufacture opinion and tell us what is consensual. It says that, continuing on in this article, it says that Facebook will also use AI to prioritize particularly risky or urgent user reports so they're more quickly addressed by moderators, and the tools to instantly surface local language resources and first responder contact information. A private corporation deciding who goes to jail? What could possibly go wrong? Facebook is using pattern recognition to detect posts or live videos where someone might be expressing suicidal thoughts and to help respond to reports faster. Dedicating more reviewers from our community operations team to review reports of suicide or self-harm. Facebook admits that they have asked the police to conduct more than 100 wellness checks on people. So they've already started doing this. They wellness checks. They've already said that they've used Facebook to contact the police to go check on people. So you can run to Facebook. Don't call 911. You can run to Facebook, and then you can have the cops go check on somebody. That's crazy. How does this tie into the collective consciousness? How does this tie into the ascension process? Well, whenever kids, as I said before, with the generational warfare, whenever kids, adults, everyone is on Facebook. It is Facebook, social media, anything. It is an equalizer. It is a platform. But now these kids that are being brought into it, the same way they're having phones shoved in their face, from the minute they come out of the womb till the minute they go into college, it is doing different things to their brains. It is changing how they think. It is changing how they see reality. Whenever you have a child that is trying to take pictures of themselves, and this is what ties into some of the pedophile expulsion with Rome, with Babylon, with House of Cards, Kevin Spacey, Hollywood, all these people, this cultural indoctrination. This is what I'm talking about. When they can control your kids, when they can get them now, they can control the future. That's why these kids are addicted to screen time. That's why they're addicted to the scroll. That's why they're addicted to the LED, even though it's killing them, even though it's killing us all. But that's the idea. Because if they want the latest thing, they won't think about what comes after. They won't think about how there's implants. They won't think about the Bible. They won't think about how the Bible told you, do not get those implants. No. And that's how you have generational warfare. That's how you successfully indoctrinate somebody into this hive mentality, this social experiment that these technocrats are trying to do. Whenever they all want to be internet stars, when they all want their 2 seconds of fame, who will outdo one another? Is there any real limit? Like here, this is a perfect example of the types of things that I'll use as a springboard into. Right here, U.S. military invests in doomsday genetics technology. My main worry is that we do something irreversible. So I'm going to go off on a limb and say that they're talking about eugenics and epigenetics and all kinds of other strange things like that. You know, biohacking, transhumanism, things like the gene drive, and everything else that we talk about on the show, because this is all very, very much important. What we're discussing is, again, the generational warfare, the problems that we don't have to deal with ourselves, but that our children will have to deal with. Common Core, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on the educational system. But what I'm trying to say is this ties in with all this, with Facebook and kind of that culture, that concept of saying, you know what, this is what the next generation is going to have to deal with. We might try to kick and scream and say, Facebook, you're being too authoritarian. The next generation doesn't understand it. They just want the latest update. They want more Bitmojis. They want more animated emojis. They want to be able to know where their friends are. They want to know where all these types of things are and what it can do, regardless of your privacy. In a world where that was very important beforehand, we're moving more towards a 24-hour society. That's on the technological aspect, but over here with the genetics types of stuff, again, this is things that the children, the next generation after us, will have to deal with or grow up into. They won't ever think, you know, why are my friends so dumb, when they don't understand that it's like 1 in 36 children that will be autistic, or you know, some of the really, really heavy problems of society. But let me get into this. This is from Freedom Outpost. It's by Max Slavo. It says, U.S. military invests in doomsday genetic technology. My main worry is that we do something irreversible. It says, amid U.S. United Nations fears that genetic extension technology could be used by militaries, a United States military agency has invested $100 million in the doomsday biological technology that can wipe out an entire species. Scientists now have the knowledge and the tools they need to create and deliver doomsday genes, which can selectively target and exterminate an entire species. So I'm gonna race-specific bioweapons. Boom. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That's exactly what that is. Race-specific bioweapons. Before I continue on with this, what we're talking about, again, is epigenetics. Epigenetics, eugenics, genetically modified mosquitoes, mutations, CRISPR-Cas9, gene editing, and all these different types of things. Creating mutations. Like they said, doing something irreversible. While they might think they're trying to solve a solution or target and exterminate entire species selectively, as they said, this might have wide-ranging applications. We don't know. Put it to you like this: imagine if it was a DMT bomb, a DMT genetic bomb. A lot of things in the world have DMT in it. If they target that, a lot of things are going to die. But they're trying to target one specific race, or at least that's their suspicion. That's what they tell us on the papers. They're trying to attack a specific species, not knowing all the other ramifications that it has. And the same thing comes with editing your genes as well. There's creations and mutations that the first generation won't see, but the second, third, and fourth will naturally grow into. Let me get into this because I'm clearly not a biologist, but let me get into this. It says, and to make matters worse, emails released under the Freedom of Information Act suggest that the United States uber secretive Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, has become the world's largest funder of this gene drive research and will heighten international tensions further ahead of a United Nations expert committee meeting in Montreal beginning on Tuesday. The UN is debating a ban on this technology as several southern countries fear the application of this extinction technology. The use of genetic extinction technologies and bioweapons is the stuff of nightmares, but so far, known research is focused entirely on pest control and the elimination of diseases. The key word there being known. UN diplomats confirmed that the new email release would worsen the bad name of gene drives in some circles. Quote, many countries will have concerns when this technology comes from DARPA, a U.S. military science agency. One said, you may be able to remove viruses or the entire mosquito population, but they may also have downstream ecological effects on species that depend on them. My main worry, he added, is that we do something irreversible to the environment despite our good intentions before we fully appreciate the way that this technology will work. Boom. Precisely. Jim Thomas, a co-director of the ETC group which obtained the emails, said the U.S. military's influence in furthering this technology would strengthen the case for a moratorium. Quote, the dual use nature of altering and eradicating entire species is as much a threat to peace as food insecurity is a threat to the ecosystem, he said. Militarization of gene drive funding may even contravene the NMOD Convention against hostile uses of environmental modification technologies. I think so. You know, whenever you're... Why are they doing this? Why are they trying to modify the environment? Because this is, again, environmental engineering. This is a part of this biohacking. This is a part of transhumanism. This is a part of their plan, as I continually try to highlight. If they can keep trying to push us in with so many different problems, so many different things to where we really can't focus not only on the inner peace, but on the salvation that we need in order to achieve it, they will have won. They want us to just worry about the earth right now. They're trying to tear down all of the other oil industries, all the other industries that we see taking place that are basically harvesting fossil fuels, gas emissions, and all these other things. And they're trying to change it towards what I would consider free energy technologies. You know, green technologies. This is all part of that turning. You see California trying to ban diesel cars. California, China, and Paris as well. France as well, because this is all a part of that. This organized push to say, you know what, we need to do this. This is that new world order. These are the technocrats. These are the people behind the scenes. They value the earth more than they value us. Like they said, if they can do irreversible ecological damage, that's what this does. What we're always going on and on about. Well, this is why I have such a problem with mutated pigs, genetically modified mosquitoes, you name it. All the weird, crazy stuff these people do. Because they're trying to play God and they don't really understand. Either they don't understand or they don't care what becomes of society in their little petri dish called our reality. You see, like, that's not a joke. The releasing of genetically modified mosquitoes, right here. I'll get into this, and then I'll talk about the AI reality, why they're trying to dumb us down and make us so passive so they can harvest more of our energy is the simplest way to put it. But right here, hiding behind genetics to avoid culpability for environmental causes of autism. Now, I'm not going to get into all of this because this is a real heavy article. Real heavy article, and I definitely suggest you guys go check it out if you haven't already. It's definitely worth the read. But what we're basically talking about is how again, and we touched on this with our weaponizing the environment minicast, you know, how things like Parkinson's have been tied into pesticide use, prolonged exposure to pesticide use, pesticide exposure. Autism is very real, and there's a lot of things, as I keep saying, the factors that are going against us that are not advantageous to society or to humanity. I mean, why do we talk about, and why do we also at the same time condemn the concept of indigo children, possibly entities, people who have incarnated here, children, people, whoever they would like to be, who have incarnated here, who are actually here to try to help us get through this, because this is clearly not easy. This is just the start. This is just the first year of not only of Donald Trump's presidency, but again, 300 years of their Freemasonry on the back end. What they plan to do next. Why I keep harping on their agendas. Why they're trying to cull the planet. Why they have things like the Georgia Guidestones. Why they're doing all these types of things. Because this is, again, a large-term agenda. They want to disenfranchise us from our power. That's the ultimate goal. They don't want us to understand that not only do we have power, can we affect change, but this system, this is a long-term system, and sometimes people have to play ball with this system. Thankfully, I don't have to do that yet, or I don't have to do that at all. You know, it's just me over here. It's just me, and that's all right. Eventually, and if you guys have probably been seeing this, I do want to hire people, but that's for a whole nother discussion. But getting back into this, let me get back into this, and then I'll kind of talk about why they're trying to biohack us and do all the 3D bioprinting and all the other crazy stuff that we see happening, because they want to try to create a version of humanity that is merely a carbon copy, that is merely a synthetic clone, a hollowed out version of what's real. I put this up December 7th. It says, hiding behind genetics to avoid culpability for environmental causes of autism. This is from Prepare for Change. It's by Edward Morgan. It says, genetics is the darling of the biomedical research industry. For diseases ranging from cancer to skin disorders, investigators have been busily at work for decades trying to identify the conditions underlying genetic causes. However, the same investigators and the reporters who communicate with their findings to the public are often strangely incurious about the role of environmental toxins as the triggers of diseases. A story about autism spectrum disorder, ASD, published in October 2017 by the news website Vox, furnishes an example of this genetics as the explanation for everything perspective. Vox senior health correspondent Julia Benjus, a self-described evidence enthusiast, interviewed a small sample of 5 reportedly cutting-edge autism researchers, all of whom focus on autism genetics. Given the lack of disciplinary diversity in her selective sample, Bellows' conclusion that genetic factors are the most well-established and promising explanation for autism comes as no surprise. 2 of Bellows' 5 interlocutors, geneticist Stephen Sanders and physicist Lauren Weiss, are the researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, but neither one mentions a rigorous population-based study of 192 twin pairs published by the Archives of General Psychiatry by the UCSF researcher Neil Risch and colleges in 2011. Risch is the director of UCF's Institution for Human Genetics. The study results indicated that environmental factors have been underestimated and genetics overestimated for their role in autism spectrum disorders. Another study that involved families with 2 ASD-affected siblings, published in Nature Medicine in 2015, likewise highlighted, quote, substantial genetic heterogeneity in ASD, again suggesting that the environmental or other shared risk factors trump heritability. Environmental factors have been underestimated and genes overestimated for their roles in autism spectrum disorders. So what I'm trying to say here is by them weaponizing the environment, by them trying to destroy what is going on, they can affect the next generation. They'll be born into this nonsense. They'll be born into this craziness. They won't be able to know what's happening. They'll think that they're supposed to see all the smog, that they're supposed to be having all these problems, that they're supposed to be in these in special needs classes, that they'll require all of these care. And you know what that's actually doing? That's actually doing more damage than good, not only to the economy, but in the long run. That's so bad. It really is so bad. So what I want to say, with the rest of the time that we have in this segment, is why are we talking about them doing all these different types of things? Because like I said, this is generational warfare. Genetics is being overestimated, and environmental stuff is being underestimated. The environmental toxins and everything else that they have going on, it all plays a massive part. It really does. It really does. But they see that because we're waking up on a massive level, because we can see through their deception, through all of their lies, through all of their tricks. And we're teaching our kids. We're teaching them to be better than we were, to learn about all the things that we weren't taught in school, to be better than what they tried to tell us was education, to reteach them all the lies that they were taught, because that's what this system does. It doesn't actually try to advance you. It tries to enslave you. It dumbs you down. It disenfranchises you. Like right here, California government criminalizes teaching of trade skills to youth. All education must be government approved. And this is again why I've been wondering if California is becoming slowly more communist. But this is from the Daily Sheeple. I put it up December 6th. It's a repost from the Natural News Network. It says, as the United States Constitution continues to become nothing more than a dated piece of paper in the eyes of the left, the federal government continues to grow, spreading like a plague and infecting virtually every institution in American society. Sadly, America's education system is no exception. The liberal state of California recently passed a law requiring trade schools to deny admission to students that have not completed high school or a state-approved equivalent, meaning that the government ultimately has the final say over what young people learn and what they don't learn. Concerned about this blatant attack on his First Amendment right, Bob Smith, owner of Pacific Coast Horseshoeing School, PCHS, recently filed a federal lawsuit against the state of California, arguing that he has a right to educate anyone he wants to, regardless of whether or not they have completed a high school or a state-approved equivalent. The lawsuit, which was filed by a non-profit organization called the Institute for Justice, IJ, has gained the support of Esteban Nerez, another resident in California who wanted to attend PCH but can't because he's never completed a high school. Quote, just like publishing a how-to book or uploading a instructional video to YouTube is protected by the First Amendment, so is teaching, argued Keith Diggs, an attorney at the Institute for Justice who is representing Bob and Esteban in the lawsuit. Quote, by limiting who Bob is allowed to teach and what Esteban is allowed to learn, California has not only harmed the students most in need of an education, but also violated their First Amendment rights. End quote. And with any luck, the lawsuits filed against the state of California will be successful, and our country as a whole will take a tiny baby step in the direction of limited government and constitutionalism. Still, though, the federal government has been growing steadily for decades, and it is unlikely that it's going to stop anytime soon, regardless which political party is in control of Washington, D.C. And that's California. What I'm trying to say by highlighting all this type of stuff is they're really trying to tell you what you can and cannot learn. Imagine that. Imagine just trying to pick up a whole different trade, a whole different lifestyle, just learning different things, different skills. But because it's not government approved, because it's not approved by the state, because you don't have the right qualifications, you're not entitled to learn. That's the same thing as the church writing the Bible in Latin so they don't teach the slaves. They want to disenfranchise us. They want to make us stupid. They don't want us to actually have control of what's going on. Control of our destiny, to where we actually manifest what's going on. They want us to be stupid. They want us to be entertained on people like Lil Peep, Kanye, Kim Kardashian, Donald Trump. They want us to be triggered. They want us to be stupid, entitled, emotional, and triggered. They don't want us to be empowered. They don't want us to actually be awoken. They don't actually want us to be in a state of continual learning, but at the same time activeness. They don't want us preaching about Renaissance. They don't want us trying to break away from their system. They want us on the farm. They want us on the plantation. They want us to be good little slaves, ignorant of everything that's going around them. Everything that's going on around them. You see. This is why they want to have driverless cars, autonomous vehicles, cashless stores, smart cities, where you're all tuned into the virtual reality, to where life is cool, to where you don't think about what's going on. It's okay. I don't need to think for myself. I get my news from Facebook. I don't research anything that freedom says. I take it all on word of mouth, which I appreciate. Don't get me wrong. Very, very grateful. But research what I say. Get the actual wisdom. Understand what I'm trying to tell you guys. Look at the deeper implications of this. They're trying to disenfranchise us from the power that we can pull upon. Facebook doesn't give us power. Social media doesn't give us power. The likes don't give us power. We empower ourselves. But this reality in this world that they're trying to create, with Sophia, the world's first AI robot, and Facebook, and Uber, and Snapchat, all these other things, they're trying to mimic reality. That's all they can do. It is this artificial reality. They're trying to have us push ourselves. As I said before, how can you describe the ascension process? How can you describe waking up in 140 characters? It's impossible. It's impossible. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about this whole pedophile expulsion. You know, why Rome is falling, what this indoctrination is doing, why they want to disenfranchise us from our power, and why they want to try to do all this perverted stuff to the kids early, and how they're trying to script reality, and how they can say all this stuff is okay, live like we do. Be a part of this culture of degeneration. You see, you don't need to be greater. You don't need to think about higher spiritual truths. You know, that's demonic. That's evil. You know, that's that new age. Whatever they tell you, no, you just need to keep looking at cat videos and look at some other people do some epic stuff with their life, and you don't need to understand any of these deeper principles. You don't need to actually actuate your life. That's what they tell you. I tell you you should, because I believe in you. And I also believe that we need to take this break. And when we come back, we will be talking about that and more. Stay tuned. This is the Ascension, Censorship, and the Turning of the Age. All Factions of Freedom. Stay tuned. And we are back with the third segment. Trying to crush it. You know, so I saved this for the end because I really get kind of upset about what they're trying to do to the kids. This cultural indoctrination, why we really need to talk about, you know, what the conscious culture is, and why I really get upset with these Jim Carrey memes, these Keanu Reeves memes, Russell Brand, Eminem, all these Hollywood entertainers, Kevin Spacey, everything that we see happening. I get triggered by this. I'm not even gonna lie. If we're in a war against Hollywood, if we realize all of Hollywood is over there like sacrificing children, like literally sacrificing children, practicing dark black magic rituals, like, come on. Like, think about this. If we are still understanding of how sick these people really are and what they're doing, why are we still perpetuating the memes of these people? Why are we allowing this to happen? Disney is like literally over there harvesting children. Don't even get me started on this, okay? But I'll tell you why. They're getting all these pedophiles caught because they're cleaning the crop. They're letting them go. The first waves, second waves, they're getting them out. They're useful little compromised agents. They got them. They're getters. They got them. The people that spot the children, they're okay. It's all crazy now. But you got to think, why are they putting all this stuff out there? Things like the NAMBLA, you know, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, Disney, these drag queen story times types of things, the pedophilia, the things that are going on with the church, you know, child sex trafficking. Oklahoma State Senator, what is it? It's Kevin Shorty, I think it is. Let's see if we can get that clip up real quick. No, Ralph Shorty. Yeah. Oklahoma State Senator Ralph Shorty in a hotel room with weed and a boy. This guy was on Trump's campaign, okay? Being caught with a 17-year-old kid. This guy's about family values. Why are we talking about this type of pedophile expulsion at the end of this stuff? Because they want to try to make you think that this is okay. And you know, you guys, anything you do behind closed doors is what you do behind closed doors. Don't bring your sexual stuff out there. You see what I'm saying? This pedophilia that is rampant not only in Hollywood, but that is rampant in Washington. They're getting rid of all the useless people. They're either locking them up, or they're throwing away, or they're going to rehab for a few days. A whole new wave of people are going to start coming through. It's a whole different thing. It's not just, and this is how you got to look at it. It's not just people with underage sex kids. It's people who go to CPS. It's people who kidnap people. It's people it's cops who arrest people and disappear them. Why is 50 Shades of Grey so popular? Because we are living in this age of degeneracy. This is why Rome is falling, and why we have all these other socioeconomic issues. What we see happening is the collapse of an empire, and at the same time the rising of another. They're trying to distract us with all this sexual stuff, making us perverts. Is the easiest way to say it. That's why, like I said, they're trying to indoctrinate these kids. That's why they're trying to tell these kids, you know what? You can go do this weird stuff with older people. Love between them. It is crazy. As I said before, they are scrambling the people's brains. So, you know, let me get up off of this, because I'm only get a little bit angrier every time I cover this type of stuff. But why is it important to notice that this is what Hollywood does? Is because this is an indoctrination system. These people, they don't do it for love, because lust is not love. They try to make everything so sexy. You know, they want to make us so much more carnal, much more flesh. You know, like, like I said before, to where we don't understand deeper spiritual truths. Like I said, there's some things that go on in society that are not compatible. We try to be spiritual, in a society that loves fear. We try to project love in a society that feeds off of fear. The only way I'm able to tell you guys these truths is by telling you these problems first. And then whenever we try to project love, they call us a hippie, or they call us a dirty new ager, or they call you everything that's wrong for simply trying to be nice in a society gone wrong. We are trying to be sane in an insane society. And it ties into that. That's why, like I said, the 50 Shades of Grey, you know, the whips, the chains, the beating of each other, that's love to you. That's where we've come. We sound like savages. That's to each their own. My love is what you are hearing right now. You've heard me through all this nonsense for the past few years, through the trials and tribulations, the growth that it takes to get to this point. That's my love. It's for humanity to show you these types of things, to expose the wickedness of these types of people, to say that we're better than this, that we're much better than this, and that these people, they have no idea what they're doing. And while they might try to seem as if they're this is it, this is why they're doing it, this is why they're trying to cut back on what we consume, fake news, misinformation, disinformation agents, trolls, you know, putting out people that are out there literally just to cause problems. There's not people here for discussions. There's people that want the information. We want the content. They want the understanding. They want the wisdom. They want to be greater than this. They don't want to just be part of this wicked system that's trying to further seek our destabilization, seek our enslavement. So let me get into this. And what you guys are seeing right now, you know, I thought this was great. This man pulled over to save a wild rabbit from the fires burning in Southern California. That restored my faith in humanity. Does my heart good to see these types of things. It really does. It really does. Because that's a true act of humanity. He's not virtue signaling. He's not up on Twitter. He doesn't want help. He doesn't want any kind of interview. He's just doing what he does, trying to save that bunny. You know, the same way you swerve out of the way whenever you want to try to catch or not hit a rabbit or hit a bird or something, hit a squirrel, you know, or you wait for the deer to cross. But anyway, you know, outside of natural human behavior, because we've gotten away from that for so long, or what feels like so long in this digital ether that they're trying to create, outside of that, let's get into Hollywood trying to script reality with the time that we have left. What do I mean with that? Like I said, why does it feel like for a while there all we were seeing were Jim Carrey memes and Keanu Reeves memes? If these guys are still part of Hollywood, yeah, they might not be doing as much. They're still a part of Hollywood. They still have contracts. They still got to eat. There's still somebody paying them. And I've talked about this a lot, you know, and this is why I have such a huge issue with the being woke phenomena, where these people are saying, oh, I'm so woke, I understand so much. I don't understand anything. I'm still trying to learn every single day. I might have their blueprints, but I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to flesh it out, what that looks like. And how do they have this much foresight? They're following it to a T. Woke. These people, they're trying to give you a concept of consciousness. As I said before, in the second segment, where they're trying to put a capstone of consciousness, trying to tell you what to think and how to feel and how to act. What is woke? What is consciousness? What is expansion? And I don't mean about you and your buddies doing a whole bunch of psychedelics in the woods and thinking you're a shaman because you didn't shower for 3 days. No, that's not the same. Like I said, some spiritual practices are not compatible with the West. Some deeper spiritual truths cannot be actuated here. So when we have people like Jim Carrey say, you know, doing this, doing that, people saying, hey, you know, I'm going to screenshot Jim Carrey's Twitter page and I'm going to make up some real dope, deep stuff real quick. I'm going to make him say it. You're not thinking for yourself. That's the entire point of what I'm trying to get at. by us saying that we knew Hollywood was still evil and that we followed Jim Carrey, Keanu, Russell Brand, Eminem, and all these other people anyway, we're not thinking for ourselves. We're still falling into that hive mentality. We're still being followers. We're not having original thoughts. You see, that's what we're up against. We're up against so much conformity, so much uniformity, so much anti-individualism, anti-humanity, anti-human, because these are separate things, that whenever we actually try to pull apart from it and take a step back and say, where is humanity going as a whole, you're considered crazy. How is it considered crazy whenever you don't want to be a part of a system that takes away your right to defend yourself simply because of a plant? How are you considered crazy whenever you don't want to be a part of a system that is furthering not only your enslavement, but your child's enslavement? These are the deeper things. So whenever we try to take the 2-second shortcut route to being woke, there is no way to do that. There really is no way to do that. Because hope doesn't get a shortcut. Hope, at that light at the end of the tunnel, you got to start booking it. That's your shortcut. Or you got to start putting in more work. There's no way that we can get to where we got to go quick, fast. We really have to assess all the different problems and see why we're talking about these types of things. Like we said before, revolutions, they start on the inside. And I'm talking about cosmic, chronological energy as well. You know, what we see ourselves experiencing right now in this age, in this time, that plays a part in it as well. The people that have been here, the people that have set the stage, the problems that we find ourselves up against, they are very real. But it's upon the people who are in this fight, who are in this arena, who have to fight this enemy every single day, that are the real champions. So whenever they're cleaning off the crop, cleaning off the dirt and the muck, getting rid of all these people from Hollywood, doing all this other stuff with NBC, the mainstream media, blah 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 blah. These are the agents that have done their part. They can sell their story, they can go quietly die off somewhere or go hang out somewhere else. We're dealing with a whole new wave now, a whole new adversary, and we really got to think about that. That adversary is of the mind. They pay attention. That's how these social engineers work. They pay attention using sciences, using technology, using math, using all of it. They have it all at their disposal. They're right there. These are the social engineers, and they can see where things are going. That's why they're trying to take it away from the movie screens. Things like Netflix and YouTube have done irreparable amounts of damage to things like the entertainment industry, SoundCloud as well, to the music industry, and everything else. You have a pocket studio in your phone. So what was their response? Their response was to try to script reality. They can no longer effectively influence us through things like technology. CNN is fake news. Through things like Hollywood. You know, we all know it's bullcrap. And we all know that it's being bought out. So their idea is to use their agents that they still have in place to manipulate reality, to manufacture opinion, to manufacture your consent, to create your consent to say that these types of things are okay, that it's okay to disassociate from reality, that it is okay to have love with a child, that it is okay for you to do a gender reassignment. And if we think all of this is crazy, it's only going to get worse. Because now they're actually saying that these people need to actuate on these ideas. They need to live them. As crazy as you think it might be, it'll be a lot crazier. Like, let me touch on this real quick with the time that we have right here. Swiss scientists created the first soft artificial heart. So transhumanism is something that we touch on all the time, right? The concept of augmenting what it means to be human. Manufacturing man. Right there, they say mimicking muscle contractions. The idea behind what these people are trying to do is to basically create their own man. But in order for them to have something that resembles humanity, we ourselves have to be at a certain state. A litmus test, a Turing test is what they give to the artificial intelligence to see whether or not it has sentience. They need to bring us down to a state of subservience, or at least a state of ignorance, to where their new machines can overlap our thinking or supersede our thinking. This is why artificial intelligence is very important, and why things like The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by Charlotte Thompson Iserbyt is important, because what we see ourselves turning into is phone zombies, and what these people are doing are basically creating our replacements. The robots that we think are, clever or cool, however we want to approach that, like Israel's robot army, things like Atlas from Boston Dynamics, the Russian robot fighters, all the other things that they have, they will pale in comparison to the robots in the future, because we've got to think about how fast things are accelerating, how fast these robots will create themselves. I talked about this in our minicast, Spawning Electronic Persons, where we basically talked about self-replicating AI and all this other strange stuff, because it is very important. And the reason why I wanted to go off on that tangent in the time that we have left is so that we really understand that these people are trying to create a life. They are trying to mimic God. And while they see that we are going through this ascension process, they want to take all of that ascension energy and try to harvest it in technology, harvest it on social media, manipulate it and simulate it so that they can create their own form, their own outcome. Because we're supposed to be going through so much more, but whenever they keep throwing all these different problems at us through the vaccines, through the chemicals, through the GMOs, through the genetic technology, all these different problems, they really do affect us, but it also at the same time refines us. As I said before, they're turning us into diamonds. They're making us more effective. But if we don't really look at what the end goal is, then we become prey to their system. That's why I'm calling this, the fourth age. You see, there's deeper things here. And I'm not talking about cryptocurrency. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. It's representative of it. But this is why I'm constantly talking about the concept of renaissance over revolution. Dismantle all politics, man. They're all corrupt. It's already a corporatocracy. They're already trying to do it for the bottom dollar. My point is this, before I go off on a tangent about corporations. My point is this: when looking at the Ascension, censorship, and the turning of the age, we're talking about how these people want to try to put a capstone on our consciousness, how they want to tell us what is socially acceptable whenever we're supposed to be in a time of real consciousness expansion. I don't mean using things like their man-made drugs. I'm saying actually listening to the sound of the universe, listening to the will of God, to really understanding what is happening, to taking a step back and saying, you know what, even though all these rapid developments in science and technology, what are they really costing us? Is it costing us our time here on the planet? Is it costing us our sanity? Is it costing us our humanity? Is all of that much more important? Because when we make these robots, as I keep trying to reiterate, we're making them in a time not of enlightenment, but of destruction. And if we have to take a step back and really look at where we're going, clearly we're not on the right path. Clearly where they have us heading is down a path of annihilation. And everything you hear us talking about here on the show is meant to illustrate how we're greater than that. So they might try to drag us down with this pedophile nonsense. They might try to distract us with all of their driverless cars and their autonomous societies to where everything's so convenient. But we have to understand that humanity is not only awesome, but all of these problems illustrate the potential that we each individually have. And if we come together, if we really do see all these problems, we will be able to surpass them. But like I said, this is the ascension, censorship, and the turning of the age. However, that's all I really have for you guys. I know I kind of jumped all over the place, but just to really try to illustrate, like I said, the fact that we are living in tumultuous times, you know, the fact that we are going up against a system that is trying to further our enslavement while we're going through this natural ascension process. That's the key thing. But we really have to take a step back and look at all the different factors that we're up against and how we still somehow are able to come out on top. And it's what we come out with and where we're going that matters. But like I said, that's all I really have for you guys. Make sure you're checking out the website, factionsoffreedom.jimdo.com, and once you're there, you know, check out our articles, videos, documents, the downloadables. You even check out some of our mini casts because they're all there. Make sure you also sign up for our newsletter. And if you really want to keep supporting us, think about becoming a Patreon exclusive member. A little bit here, a little bit there. It helps us get to where we're going. Well, like I said, that's all I really have. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noisera, Freedom Faction, out.